I am delighted to have found my way to being dear friends with Sue Beauregard. And some of our path led us together because we are both coaches, and our path clearly overlapped and found the same walkway because we are both interested in, and we've both had our own individual experiences with the importance of broadening the conversation around death and really just dissolving the taboo fears that come up about talking about it. So as we came together to create this YouTube channel, it just seemed that it would be good for both of us to start by introducing ourselves and sharing a little bit about why it's so important to us to step down this lane together. So, Sue, would you please introduce yourself and then just start sharing your own personal experiences with death that reminded you that this was an important conversation to have?
Absolutely. Thank you. And it's been an honor to work with you and have our paths interweave because it is such an important conversation. So my name is Susan Beauregard. I am a certified holistic coach through Radiant Coaches Academy. I am also an astrologer and a Reiki master and a mother of a 13-year-old. I also have a loving partner, and his daughter is very much involved in our lives. So that is a little bit about me. Why I am so passionate about this conversation is because I had lost my father in 2012, my adopted mother this past September, in September of 2020, and then my biological mother in April of 2021. And it was really interesting to me to see the difference between my adopted mother, who planned, she had her paperwork in place, she had all her directives, and to sit with her in hospice by her bedside and still struggle through some of the decisions and question if I was doing the right thing or not. And then fast forward, gosh, a little over 6 months later to my biological mother, who had no paperwork in place, not even a will, and trying to work with my aunt on what was her wishes, what was the best thing to do for her. And it's such an important conversation that people don't seem to have. With my biological mother, the conversation occurred when we realized that her cancer had metastasized and it didn't look good. And that's when we had the conversations. Right. And even with both my parents, my adopted parents, my father, same thing, had all his paperwork in place. And I still felt, as I was navigating it, that there were pieces missing, that they felt that what they did was enough. And even having been that proactive, there were conversations that they weren't really willing to have. And it was a really quick sentence, and we were done. And so this is so important to me because no loved one should have to struggle and wonder through if they're doing the right thing for the person that they love that is in the midst of transitioning. Death is such a sacred experience. To be by my mother's side, both my mother's sides, as they were, getting ready to leave their bodies, it was so humbling and so sacred. And I was so honored to be a part of that process. And death is so taboo in this country, in the United States. And I feel that conversation and that stigma needs to change very quickly, because it is a part of life is death. Like what Rhonda says is when the statistics show that 100% of us die. Like it's so true. It's so true.
And yet we go on pretending like it will never happen to us. We always think we have more time.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So my friend, would you like to share a bit about you? You're a pretty amazing person, but I would like everybody to know
Thank you.
How amazing you are. So
thank you very much. Well, my name is Rhonda Hall. And I have had a circuitous route through a degree in art that led to my master's in education that ultimately guided me to my doctorate in psychology. And through all of it, what I learned is I don't know a whole lot. I'm just really stubborn and persistent. So somehow I'm grateful to have all of the alphabet soup letters behind my name. And what I discovered along the way is that although all of that educational experience and professional experience is valuable and important, what has taught me the most are my personal experiences. I know that when I was 17, I experienced a near death, and it was at a period in time when people weren't talking about it. It's not as if they're talking about it much now, but it's become a little more commonplace to hear about people who have had a near-death experience. I very quickly assessed, I think both Sue and I have that empathetic, we're both empaths, that I really picked up very clearly, like, no, this is something you just don't talk about. And it really didn't fit anywhere in my religious upbringing. It just was there as this phenomenon. And so it wasn't until several years later that I had the opportunity to study with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And that was my deep dive into this experience, that it was about loss, grief, death, dying. They're all essential parts of that journey. And since then, I've had, many opportunities within my own family and within my family of choice, dear sisters, that I've had the opportunity to be with through their journey of passing. A couple of them chose a medically assisted death. And so it's each step of the way, it's just been an opportunity to twist and reevaluate and reassess and finally find a place for what I know in my heart as well as what I know in my head. We always talk about the most difficult journey in life is from our heads to our hearts. It's only 16 inches, but it's a tricky journey to maneuver. So here within my local community, I've joined with 3 or 4 other women to start an organization called Dying Matters Guild, to bring together those people who are involved in death, from hospice workers, ideally doctors, caregivers, nurses, funeral directors, and on the alternative side of basket weavers who are making who are going to do either a home burial or so many alternatives I've had the chance to look at. And what I know from helping people write their advance directive, that they may think they just want to get the paperwork in order, but unless you really look at the questions, unless you look at what's in your heart, unless you look at your own fears, that you're always doubting what you have on paper. So that's what, I feel honored to be a Radiant coach as well. And that's where Sue and I overlapped. And so we're looking forward to this ongoing, unfolding adventure of just somehow Sue and I have the ability to raise the questions that people don't realize they want to talk about. And start those conversations. So we're looking forward to see where this goes together, and we're grateful and welcoming you to join us on the journey.